Don't Luka now, but the Lakers are the second seed in the Western Conference. Can they stay there? KD and the Suns get closer to a divorce. And after a weekend of wild comebacks, are the Cavaliers now the team to beat in the NBA? I'll ask Matt and Haize all of that and more today on Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On NBA. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free. We are available wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Doug Branson, host of Locked On Hornets, and your Shot Clock Sherpa, guiding you through the NBA's biggest stories with the help of Locked On's local experts. And with me are two of Locked On's premier national NBA experts from the Locked On Nuggets podcast and senior NBA writer for the Action Network. He's the man of 1,000 podcasts. It's Matt Moore.
47 days until the NBA playoffs begin.
The countdown is on. And we've also got from the Locked On Bulls podcast, the Prince of Petty, it's Haize.
That means 47 days until I no longer have to worry about Chicago Bulls basketball for at least 3 months.
Wow. Hold the phone. I think they're still holding on to that play-in spot. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right, let's go from the bottom of the Eastern Conference to the top of the Western Conference. The Los Angeles Lakers are on a roll right now, climbing to second place in the West with a 38-21 record. They've won 6 straight games, including 2 wins against the Clippers over the weekend. Matt, we'll start with you. They're the second seed now. Will they remain the second seed when the regular season is over?
No. So I made the comment on Twitter and Lakers fans got real mad, as they tend to do. The only point I'm trying to make here is just like, look at the history of this. So the Rockets were the 2 seed and they were on this winning streak. Are the Rockets legit? Oh, nope. There they go. Oh, hey, the Grizzlies have taken over the 2 seed. Maybe the Grizzlies are up. Nope. There they go. Up. The Nuggets are on a 9-game winning streak. This is it. This is the second. Nope. There they go. You're just not going to be able to maintain it. It's very difficult. Now, look, maybe the Lakers are that team in the second half that just keeps it up. And over the last section of the season, they are the best team in the league. We've seen that before. Like, it's possible. March is messy. Everyone talks about their strength of schedule, but I don't really worry about that because the good teams are in weird places, coasting or resting or getting ready for the playoffs. You can beat those good teams at this point. The Lakers are legit. I just think it's more likely that probably the defense regresses a little bit. The offense probably regresses in a positive way. But I think overall, it's very likely that we still see some shuffling at the top of the Western Conference behind OKC.
Over the last 5 games, the Los Angeles Lakers have the second best defensive rating in the league. And I was on a 6-game winning streak. If I had faith that defense would stay that high, I'd probably say, yeah, they could stay the second seed. But it's the Western Conference. A hot week, a cold week can completely change the order of those top 4 teams. Well, 2 through 4. His number 1 is going to stay the OKC Thunder. So, you know, they're like Matt said, they're legit. They're going to be a tough team, tough out in the playoffs. They're better than what I expected that they would be right after trading Luka. But I wouldn't bet on them staying number 2 in the West. And not just that's not a knock on them. That's just how close all those teams are 2 through 4.
I got some pushback, but I feel like we should hear from Locked On Lakers first.
Yeah, let's hear from the Kamenetsky brothers of Locked On Lakers, who appear to be as stunned as everyone else.
I had said, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, that the Lakers would be starting off March as essentially the 2 seed in the Western Conference. You would have congratulated me on a successful 2K season that I was playing in parallel with the one the Lakers were actually having, because that did not seem like something that was going to actually happen.
The thing about adding Luka to this team is he raises the floor and the ceiling. And the floor is what you need when things aren't clicking and you just need to try to find ways to win. But when things are going well, that ceiling factor that we're now seeing is coming into play, because beating the Clippers by six without 2 starters and a key rotation defensive guard, like, they're just now looking like a team that believes in themselves.
Now, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but in that same tweet about them not being able to hold on to the second seed, I think you said that you were more confident in the Lakers to make a finals run than some of those other teams that they're competing with that second seed for. Did I have that right?
Yeah, like I think it's entirely possible for them to make a playoff run. I think it's very possible they win the Western Conference. Like I think that's on the table. They've got to be able to push, because a lot of this is just, we see this every year. There's one team that makes, how can I put this? A fortunate run. Some might even call it a fluky run. Like the Heat made a fluky run to the finals in 2023. The Mavericks made a fluky run to the finals in 2024. We have back-to-back seasons of that happening. Yeah, bubble run. Like these kind of things happening, right? Like these things occur more commonly now in this era of parity. So I think the Lakers are very live to be able to make the playoffs. The other thing I'll say is, Haize, I was with you on terms of like, okay, we'll see if the number one defense holds here with Jackson Haize. I went back and I did the film work this morning. They're actually just that good, man. Haize runs last night. Haize ran drop, switch, hedge, and zone. He
didn't run anything. Didn't run at all.
They ran all. Yeah, Luka did not run anything. They ran all four of those and were effective with all of them. They've got such great help on the weak side. Haize gets to overhelp at the rim because he's got Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt both helping down in perfect position to both cover the crash on the weak side, on that cut, and the backside corner. It's really impressive stuff the Lakers defense are doing. That's why the stuff from Locked On Lakers, where they're like, the thing about Luka, it's not about Luka. Luka's been okay. He's not really making them better. They have a better net rating when he's off the floor. It's JJ Redick's defense that's getting this done, and it's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
JJ Redick is a heck of a coach, I think, overall. And the defense is much more impressive than I give it. I just, you know me, I'm a pessimist until it's proven true for a longer period of time. That's just how I am with everyone. Look at the start of the season where I was like, oh, the Cavs are good, but let's see. Now I'm like, no, the Cavs are definitely probably going to win the East. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes over the season. They're a talented team.
All right, Luka, good coach of the year consideration? I mean, does he work his way into there?
You said Luka, which is funny because it's like that's the amount of credit that he'll wind up getting.
Oh, did I say Luka? I'm sorry, Redick.
It's okay. I don't think this year that Redick can get coach of the year. I think Atkinson's got it pretty well sewn up, and if it's not him, it's got to be JB Bickerstaff. But like going forward, yeah, I just think that JJ's probably going to win a ton of games. Like he's shown an ability to reinvent them, to get them more flexible. He was so frustrated with them for half of the year, but they've adjusted their roster and gotten him the things that he needed, and that was before they added Luka Doncic. So, yeah, I mean, I think Redick's good enough for him to win Coach of the Year next year. I've been really impressed on a tactical level of what he's shown, and now they're past kind of the doldrums. Notably, I just got to say it, they just look like an entirely different team without Anthony Davis. Just they got a different pep in their step.
It's interesting. I think I said Luka because I was amazed by your net rating stat. And then I was thinking about the net rating stat that we were throwing around with LeBron James on the court versus off the court. And it's just the Lakers seem inevitable at this point. It doesn't matter what they look like with their stars on the floor or off the floor. They just keep winning. Coming up on the Locked On NBA podcast, we're going to talk about a team that is doing anything but winning, and that's the Phoenix Suns, as reports come out that Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns will work together on finding a trade partner for next season. We'll talk about what that means on the other side here on Locked On NBA. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, live bets can be placed throughout the game. Miss the opening tip-off? No problem. Want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback? Stay in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for a shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Recent reports indicate that the Phoenix Suns and Kevin Durant are expected to collaborate on facilitating a trade to a contending team this offseason, especially if the team doesn't make a significant playoff run. Haize, what do you make of this latest development? How does it benefit Phoenix to work with KD on a destination?
I think it benefits them, just everybody's on the same page. Like Kevin Durant, once we heard at the All-Star break that the reason he didn't want to be traded was just because he didn't want to move in the middle of the season, I think we all kind of understood, all right, this is what's probably going to happen in the offseason. If they're both on the same page and they're both understand like what the purpose is going into this offseason, I think it just works out best for everybody involved, the team included. And the Phoenix Suns still have Devin Booker. Reportedly, they still want to try to salvage something around Devin Booker if they can. And they're going to be teams this offseason that just fall short in the playoffs, whether that's an early exit, whether that's a tough exit in a game 7 or something. They're going to be looking at for something that can get them over the top. Kevin Durant presents that opportunity for those teams, which thus means that they can get probably a pretty good piece back. I'm going to look out for the Houston Rockets in this case. I know that's not necessarily what we're talking about right now, but if their season ends earlier than expected, they have contracts that they can match. They got assets. They can get it done.
Yeah, I don't know if they want him or they want Book. I think that's the question. I think they'd rather have Booker because they want a star that aligns with their timeline. You don't want to just throw KD on a team full of young dudes. I'm really curious about when KD kind of came to this conclusion, right? Because he was so forceful in rejecting the reports that he was considering a trade request last December. Like Woj. Remember Woj? Woj retweeted that a year and a half ago, or a year and 3 months. So I'm really curious to know, like, when did this shift for KD? Like, when did this change for him? At what point did he kind of realize that he wanted to move on? And what was the impact? Because there's a little bit of a chicken and the egg thing here where it's, okay, did KD decide that he was out on this team? And that's why they spiraled from a locker room standpoint where everyone, like, it is inexplicable they are this bad. It is. If they were above 500 and it's like, yeah, it just didn't really work. They were fine, but not very good. Okay, they're outright bad. Like, they're a bad team. That doesn't make any sense when you have Booker and KD and NBA rotation guys. They're not out there with G Leaguers. Like, this is like Tyus Jones and Royce O'Neal. Like, these are guys that are actual NBA players. Regardless, the on-off stuff with Bradley Beal is an atrocity. Don't get me wrong. But like, even Brad's like not having a bad season offensively. I can't understand what happened to Phoenix, which is why I just wonder what went on behind the scenes and whether KD is a victim of it or the cause of it. And I'm not trying to put blame on him. Just none of this makes sense to me.
Do you think that this should be part of a larger reshuffling that includes Devin Booker or includes Mike Budenholzer? There seems to be some rumblings of a rift between those two. Should this be let's move Kevin Durant and keep trying to push this thing in a forward direction, or should this be part of a larger blow up?
I think you should try and keep Book. I just think that you should, because here's the thing. It's a lot easier to trade a superstar like Kevin Durant for role players than it is to trade Kevin Durant for a young player in picks. It's a lot easier. Young players and picks are what every team wants because it's cost controlled. So if you go the other way and you're like, hey, we'll take your aging veteran stars, which clears cap space for the future, but they can still play now because we still want to compete with Book. That helps you get the pressure back off of Houston, who's going to be like, we own your picks. You better do something. We own your picks. Better give us Devin Booker. You need to do that kind of a move to get the pressure off. So I think you move KD for those kind of pieces. You talk to Bradley Beal and be like, who are the teams? And you try and get enough draft assets back with KD to facilitate then packaging it with Beal to move off of him while getting a little bit of draft equity back. That to me has to be the move.
Haize?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, if I'm the Suns, I'm trading everybody. I'm going full Utah Jazz, moving everybody and trying to get the most picks back and starting over. That's just where I would be at it. I understand why they want to keep Devin Booker there, but in my opinion, I don't think you can realistically put something together on the fly enough to where you're competitive enough in a deep Western Conference. I would just completely tear everything up and start over.
Whole house is cursed. Go full poltergeist. It implodes in on itself. House gone. All right. Let's move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They overcame not one, but two big-time deficits against the Celtics and the Trailblazers this weekend. Here's Danny Cunningham with the numbers you need to know and the X factor that has been powering them since the trade deadline.
First time since the 97-98 season in which the Cavs have had back-to-back wins in which they were down by 18 points or more. Ideally, I don't think they want to be down by 18 points on Tuesday when they take on the Chicago Bulls, but I do think that they'll have a little bit more energy. I just think that they'll be back to normal. They won this game because DeAndre Hunter was phenomenal. 32 points, 7 rebounds. He hit 5 threes. He had 9 points in overtime alone. I think that this trade that they made is something that raises both the team's floor and the team's ceiling. Since the trade, they have been the best team in basketball by just about every metric. They still have the best offense. They're the number 3 defense in that span. They've got the best net rating by a wide margin because of course they do. That's who they are. But in the last 8 games the Cavs have played, the Cavs are first in offensive rating, 125.8. They are 4th in defense at 107.4. Their net rating is 18.4. That is nearly 5 points better than the second best team in basketball.
Matt, what did you see from the Cavs over the weekend in those 2 big comebacks? Are they the team to beat right now in the NBA? Are they your title favorites?
No, it's still going to be Boston just because Boston's ability to match so many things. They weren't fully healthy, even though I think that Celtics fans are overblowing that a little bit, given that Drew Holiday has not been great this year, and I have a lot of questions. The Cavaliers split with the Celtics 2-2 this year. In the wins, the Cavs held their 3-point attempts down. In their losses, the Celtics got up more than 51. It's going to come down to that. I do think that these are for a while we were like, hey, okay, the Celtics, but also like the Cavs and the Knicks and maybe the Magic. And then it was like, all right, maybe not the Magic. And now I'm like, nope, Knicks are out too. It's just Celtics or Cavs. And so I do think this Cavs team has a special combination. They're getting better. Cavs fans were throwing back at me this weekend a January tweet where I was like, I'm a little worried the Cavs might have peaked because they started to drift a little bit. Their defense was getting a little bit worse and the offense was getting a little bit worse and their profile wasn't necessarily elite. They've improved. They're getting better. Donovan Mitchell in particular has found his groove again, and he is playing amazing. He's up to 3rd in EPM. They are absolutely legit. I don't know if they can. I don't know whether they'll get past Boston. I know they can, and that needs to be good enough and show that they are a very serious title threat in the NBA.
I love the way that you worded that because, like, you like to get boxes and corners just talking absolutes. Like, no, you can absolutely say that they're going to get past the Boston Celtics. We've seen what the Boston Celtics have done over the last few years, but they have all the tools needed, and they've had success against them in the regular season to where you can make a absolute strong case that they will make it out the East. That they will beat the Boston Celtics. I was one slower to believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers. At the beginning of the season, even 25-ish games in, I was like, all right, we'll see what they do in the playoffs, but the way that they've been able to play during the season, the way they've been able to adapt, and like you said, Donovan Mitchell has now gone back to like showing like, no, I'm still Donovan Mitchell. I was just playing a way that everybody can get involved. That's what makes this Cavs team so dangerous. Not only their depth and how they play together, but Donovan Mitchell's ability to go off and to dictate a playoff series, especially if it gets close. That's what you want a tool that they have in their shed. You just can't ignore. So, I have moved on I've moved into now the Cleveland Cavaliers are my favorite, and it's just because of their resiliency and all the different things that they're able to throw looks at you. So I think the Cavs are the safe bet right now to come out the Eastern Conference.
Let us know what you think on YouTube, youtube.com/@LockedOnNBA. Jump into the comments and let us know what you think. ESPN's Shams Charania broke the news on Friday that Joel Embiid will be out for the remainder of the season to deal with his ongoing left knee issues. How they're going to deal with that remains to be seen, or remains a question. Let's get the reaction from Locked On 76ers host Keith Pompey.
Quite honest with you, this wasn't surprising at all. I mean, when we look at it, Joel Embiid has only played 19 games this season, mostly due to a left knee ailment, knee swelling in his left knee. And the last couple of games, Joel Embiid just was awful. If we're going to be serious about it, Joel Embiid hasn't played very well against the Brooklyn Nets on last Thursday. Joel Embiid was benched in the fourth quarter against the Brooklyn Nets. It wasn't because of an injury. It was because he couldn't move. It was because when they took him out the game, the 76ers played much better.
So Shams would go on to report that Embiid took his concerns about his knee directly to Sixers owner Josh Harris, and that there are quote, fundamental disagreements, unquote, between Embiid and the team over his treatment plan, the former believing that he needed surgery and the latter wanting him to play through it. Matt, what does the continued disconnect between the 76ers and Joel Embiid about his knee health signal to you about their future together?
It very much speaks to the possibility of a breakup. I think once you start getting into this thing where the team is so frustrated with your treatment plan and how you've gone about it and your people who you've entrusted, it's just hard to go back from that. It's one of the reasons why teams try and like really resist the influence of outside medical opinions. And you can say like, yeah, because they want control over it and the staff is going to do what's best for the player. And that's absolutely true. Like, I don't know how to navigate that. I don't know how to navigate all these kind of things. What I do know is that it's more likely for that to create a vendetta. That's a very personal thing when a team says, we want you to play through this. And you're like, no, I can't. This is not what's best for my career. That's similar to what happened with Kawhi Leonard and the San Antonio Spurs. And again, a lot of different opinions on what happened with that situation, depending on who you talk to. I will just say that I think it's more likely that the Embiid's time in Philly is wrapping up. And of all the ways for this to end, this sucks the most because Sixers fans don't get the payoff of the process working out. They don't even get the catharsis of, hey, we tried, we had good runs, but it didn't work out. You don't get that. It just winds up being like, yeah, he got hurt, and then the team and them disagreed, and it caused bad feelings. There's just no good way that this ends for anybody, and that sucks.
That's the unfortunate part of when injuries are the reason why things start falling apart for a team and an organization. Like it's once you start disagreeing on the treatment, once you start, one side wants one thing, one side's what the other. It's hard to come back to the middle at some point. Now, hopefully that they can. Seems like the Philadelphia 76ers still want to be able to rely on Joel Embiid and want, if he's ever able to get back on the court and stay on the court consistently, they want it to be in the 76ers uniform. But, I don't think that's going to happen. And thus the frustration is just going to keep building. We'll see what Joel Embiid does as far as surgery and the decision there in the offseason. But I would not be surprised if, honestly, I'll say this, especially if he does get surgery, I would not be surprised if Joel Embiid has maybe already played his last game in the Philadelphia 76ers uniform.
Wow. All right. Well, coming up on Locked On NBA, a lot happened over the weekend. We've got more injury updates and a return for an Eastern Conference contender. Could it help them get past a potential tough first round series? I'll ask Matt and Haize that and more in a segment we're calling In Case You Missed It. That's coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. Here's how to take advantage of the deal. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. If you're staying up late to watch highlights or just need a midnight snack, you can use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Need a quick and easy lunch for the next day? Dash Pass gets you your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon until midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. More Locked On NBA ahead. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Maybe it's your first watch on YouTube, youtube.com/Locked On NBA. You get this show on this feed, and you also get Locked On NBA Game Night, recapping every game every night. And I'm sure they had a great time recapping the Philadelphia 76ers' latest win, a losing streak breaking win, in which Quentin Grimes went off for a career-high 44 points on 18 of 24 from the field in a 7-point win over the Golden State Warriors, who were without Jimmy Butler. Matt, did the Sixers play themselves with this acquisition of Grimes? Are they going to trip and fall into a play-in berth, maybe even a playoff berth, and cost themselves a first-round pick?
My impulse is to say no, but I mean, wouldn't this be just another part of how bad the Luka trade was? That even you follow up and you trade Grimes, and then that guy leads the team to the play-in tournament while the Mavs miss the playoffs, and Luka and the Lakers go to the finals. Like, how bad can this trade get? Let's find all of the ways that Nico Harrison's winter can look absolutely horrible. That's my big takeaway here.
Haize.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. I don't know if the Philadelphia 76ers are gonna find themselves into the play-in just because, like, the Bulls suck.
All right. Let's go. In case you missed it, we'll go rapid fire here on a few things that happened over the weekend. We'll start with New York. Mitchell Robinson returned to the Knicks this weekend after missing 10 months with an ankle injury. He obviously has to get into game shape, playing limited minutes right now. But let's just get ahead of the story. Can he still be a difference maker for the Knicks moving forward? Can he be a difference maker in a first-round playoff series, Haize?
Yeah, I think he can. It depends on how much he's able to get into rhythm and things. But I definitely think when you look at defense and the things that he does bring when he is healthy, even if he can bring 65% of that, like, it helps this Knicks team tremendously. So, yeah, I think he can.
Mitch was a DPOY candidate before he got hurt last year. The Knicks are third worst in the league in points in the paint per 100 possessions allowed. So he'll immediately make an impact on that kind of end. Here's the other thing I will tell you is after watching Precious Achiuwa in those games versus those big time teams, yeah, he's going to make a big difference just by not having Precious Achiuwa on the floor as much. Their backup bigs are horrendous. So being able to stagger with either Cat or Mitch on the floor and not have to play those reserve bigs, especially in the playoffs, it's going to help a ton.
And even though he was playing limited minutes, he was hitting the floor, getting loose balls, making hustle plays, and the last two wins that the Knicks had were pretty close wins. So those marginal plays mattered, and Mitchell Robinson made a few of those. All right, let's move to the Kings. Domantas Sabonis is out indefinitely after suffering a grade 1 hamstring injury 3 possessions into their last game against the Houston Rockets. Now, the Kings managed to win that game, but Matt, do you think an extended Sabonis absence could open the door for the aforementioned Phoenix Suns or the San Antonio Spurs or the Portland Trail Blazers to jump into the Western Conference play-in conversation?
God, how funny would the Suns making a playoff run be after everything, just like randomly making a playoff run? Yeah, I mean, look, the stuff with Sabonis I think is going to be really rough. I don't necessarily think that there's a lot going on. I think the Mavericks are probably going to get in. I just think that AD comes back, and like, you have to understand they're without all 3 of their bigs right now. They're a team built on bigs, and they're without all 3 of them. So I kind of think that the Mavericks are going to get into that play-in tournament, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs. I still like the Wolves quite a bit, but as far as like the other teams in this conversation, Spurs, Blazers, they're 6 games with about 22-ish games left. I don't think there's enough time for them to make up ground.
Haize?
Yeah, I could see a world in which the Sacramento Kings fall out. I wouldn't bet on that. I think the way that it is right now, I could see that being the standings going into the playoffs. If the Phoenix Suns can get in and go on a playoff run, that'll put them in an interesting scenario. What we talked about earlier is the Suns said, unless they go on a deep playoff run, they're going to trade Kevin Durant. That would make it even more interesting to go into the offseason. But I think they're going to miss out on it.
I love that Haize is currently very low on his current Bulls team, very high on his former Bulls team that is playing essentially the entire Sacramento Kings current roster. I'll say, man, watch out for the Portland Trail Blazers. I would just personally love to see them game for their life in a play-in tournament. That would be fantastic. All right, let's move on. The Orlando Magic, they are having the season from hell, and it is continuing. Jalen Suggs out indefinitely after having surgery on his left knee. The Magic are still firmly in the Eastern Conference play-in. That says probably more about the East than anything. But does this injury knock them out of a sneak playoff run in your mind, Haize? Even though they still have Paolo healthy, they still have Franz Wagner healthy, does this knock them out of a sneak playoff run in your mind?
No, the key word there is a sneak playoff run, because, I mean, coming into the season, I think a lot of people looked at this Orlando Magic team as a team that could go on a run in the playoffs. I get it. Weirdly enough, they stayed in the top 4, missing Franz, missing Paolo, and they've slipped since then. I would not be shocked if somehow throughout everything they pulled it all together in the playoffs and they start looking more like the team at least I expect them to be during the season. So I'm not going to count them out yet. It would be a little bit surprising how the season has gone for them, but I'm not counting them out.
Suggs has actually been kind of adamant the plan is for him to try and get back this season. Arthroscopic surgery, you can usually come back within about 6 weeks. It's possible he comes back for a first round midway through the first round series or in the second round. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's helpful. I think he needs a rest. I think they just need to regroup and go for next year. But there is a possibility that Suggs comes back. The problem I think here is I've seen this before, not to lean on too much of my own experience and over-index that, but when the Nuggets were without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., guys who were not built to play heavy minutes had to early in the season and often, and there's a cumulative fatigue effect that happens. Some guys are conditioned and in a position for them to be able to play heavy minutes night after night, 35 plus throughout the season. Some guys aren't. And I think you're going to see that. I think you're seeing this with the Magic. They just can't keep up. Those guys are exhausted from having to cover up for all the injuries. So no, I don't think they're going to be able to make a playoff run. I think they're at best a first round out.
All right, final thing here. Rockets at Thunder tonight. The Rockets have played in a lot of close games this season. They are 7-5 in games decided by 3 or less. OKC, 0-4 in that same scenario. Matt, does that concern you at all?
How have the Thunder only played 4 close games this season? That's ridiculous. You know, the best way to win close games, don't play them. I do think there's probably something here a little bit. I think Houston does give them a little bit of issues. We'll see what the injury report looks like. A lot of guys there are questionable on the Rockets injury report for tonight. It's one of the reasons why when I looked at the line was like, what? They're like dogs like 10.5. I was like, what? But I would say that they're fully healthy. I still think these games will be very competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes down to the wire, but I do think the 0-4 is probably indicative of something, but not enough to really make anything out of it. At 0-4, it's probably noise.
Yeah, OKC Thunder are going to be fine here. Like I listen, I'm not worried. There's very few teams in the league that I have no worries about, and the OKC Thunder are one of them. Like it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a fun game, but I think the Thunder are going to come out fine in this one.
Dylan Brooks versus Shea. I love it. These Canadians hate each other, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, they're 0-4 in games decided by 3 or less. I'm fairly certain they're probably like 40+-0 in games decided by like 10 or more because they have just been absolutely dominating folks this season. All right, if you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Enjoy tonight's action, be kind to each other, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.